What's up, everybody? Welcome back to episode 32 of the Punchin' Down podcast with your host, again, me. It's always me. We got a lot to get to this week. I don't even know where we're going to start. Well, yeah, we got to start with the guy who whipped his dick out. So that's probably the funniest thing I've seen maybe in my life. So there's this dude. His name's, if you don't know any of this, there's this guy, his name is Jeffrey Toobin. Unfortunate name. So this guy got in a little bit of hot water because he works for like the New Yorker, the magazine, and he's like a contributor for CNN. He's like a legal contributor for CNN. So he was on a Zoom call. This is like, it's so funny. People are like trying to navigate, there's like this whole new world where you're on all these Zoom calls and all this stuff. And people are like, we're trying to figure out how to work from home. So anyways, this guy's in like, there's a photo of it too. It's, it's so funny. It's like a 9-panel, it's like a 9, I'm looking at it right now. It's honestly hilarious. It's like a 9-panel, Zoom call. There's like 9 people in it. And so he basically goes to like, he's like, hey guys, I just got to take a minute. Probably like, I got to go use the restroom or whatever. But so in the call, there's 3 women and then there's one empty seat. I don't know who's in the empty seat. And, and they are all stunned. And so he literally shows back up to the Zoom call. He thinks it's like muted. So I guess this is my take on this. And so he's just basically, he's like, it's like the Brady Bunch. He's in the panel and he's buck naked. He's completely naked. He is just standing there facing, and he's so awkward too. He's like, his arms are like weirdly at his side. I imagine he proceeded to masturbate without them knowing, but they're all like so like just how shocked you have to be. This guy's like a respected like legal columnist, lawyer dude. He goes on CNN, like all this stuff. So anyways, I guess he thought that the camera was off. It's just the looks on all the people's faces in it, dude. They're all like, what the fuck is going on? But so he obviously thought that it was off, or that you can just disable the thing. But then I guess he wanted to like, it must be his kink was he's like, I'm going to jack off while these people work. I don't know. Or there was maybe one of the guys or one of the girls that were on the Zoom call he had a fancy for. But it wasn't off. And then he was like, at one point he go, the best part was then like, he came out that it happened. And then he's like, yeah. Like I it's really embarrassing, but I just accidentally exposed myself. I accidentally exposed myself. But it's like, no, he straight up was facing the front-facing camera and then just starts rubbing one out on a work Zoom meeting. And then everybody's like, so there's all these takes on this too right now where people are like Brian Stelter, who's like also a guy on CNN, was like, Jeffrey Toobin has been sidelined at a pivotal moment in the run-up to the presidential election. The reason? He exposed himself during a Zoom call with New Yorker colleagues in what he says was an accident. Literally, he was jacking off. Like, it wasn't like, he wasn't like accidentally like, he wasn't like, hey, there's like something on my dick. Let me just check this. And they're like, oh shit, I'm on a Zoom call. It wasn't that kind of thing. He literally, like, I don't even know if he had his socks on. He got totally buck ass naked, and then he's just standing there with his big, he has an unfortunate looking body too. It is so funny. But anyways, so now they're like, he's suspended by the New Yorker, but he's gonna be fired. There's no way that you can just go jerk off like that. And what's sad too is like, because this guy must be 60. It's like, I'll admit, I was probably guilty of doing that when I was like in high school, when I was like, like 14 years old or something. Maybe I like went to fucking rub one on the bathroom, but I was like a teenager. This dude is like 60 years old. This doesn't end. Like you don't get a break from this where he's just gonna fucking, like, you still have to do this. I guess maybe he's just so bored in his life, and I don't know. I don't know what, but uh, I would say that is going to be a tough one to live down. I mean, dude, they're still talking about Pee Wee Herman. Think about it that way. That sucks for Pee Wee Herman too, because this came up, and then all of a sudden it's like Pee Wee Herman's in the news, and he must be like, God damn it. Like, what he did is not even in the same league as this. All he did was he went to a porn theater, which are like, obviously they don't even exist anymore. But he went to a porn theater and just whipped his dick out at a porn theater. I'm like, that's what I assume you're supposed to do. It's weird that that would get the police called on you. But I guess it would have been like, the early 90s or whatever. This dude, in a Zoom call. That's like, imagine I'm just on an episode of like my other podcast, Fuckonomics or whatever, how many Zoom calls. I don't do a ton of Zoom calls, to be honest, but you're just like on a podcast or something. And then I'm like, hey guys, just got to use the shitter, just talk without me. And then I just show back up completely naked. And I'm just like, and then that's the thing too, is like, did he not see the response? That's what I don't get either. Like, did he somehow mute all of their, windows, but keep his open? Like, would you not see them like recoiling in horror? I don't know. It's unfortunate. But I didn't even know who he was before. That sucks too, because that's why you're famous now, is for just whipping your dick out, I guess. I don't know. Bill Cosby. There's a new Bill Cosby's looking real crazy. He's there's a picture of him trending on Twitter right now, and people are like, I guess people just can't believe what he looks, because you kind of forgot about Bill Cosby. He was really the most famous comedian, one of the most famous comedians in the world. And then boom, just Me Too movement and all just unraveled for him, completely unraveled. But a new photo came out, and he looks kind of crazy. His hair's all long, and he just looks like a sad old man. But people are like, "Oh, Bill's really slipping." Yeah, he's in jail for being a serial rapist. Things aren't going great for him. But weird that people are like sad about it. I don't know. Speaking of the thing that not brought him down, but the Women's March. Because if you remember that whole timeline, basically Trump basically fucked over so many rapist dudes. Because he got elected, and then they're like, we're doing this Women's March because fuck Trump. And then from that became like the Me Too movement. I've said this many times on record. Donald Trump is one of the greatest things that's ever happened to women in a roundabout way, because he was the one that precipitated all this. The stuff like Harvey Weinstein would be producing. If Hillary Clinton was the president right now, Harvey Weinstein would be cranking out movies. Cosby would still be raping, like all this stuff. Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't be. No, he would probably still be dead from murder or suicide. If you were listening to that, I just did the air quotes. But yeah, so they had another Women's March a few days ago in Washington, D.C. This is a nice twist on the Women's March, though, because before they were like, we're protesting Donald Trump and rape culture and all this stuff. And then now they're basically just protesting putting a woman on the Supreme Court, that's a fun little twist. I'm not going to lie. Because, if in 2017, when they did the first Women's March, if you told me, yeah, they're going to do a Women's March in the next, 4 years from now or 3 years from now, there's going to be a Women's March that's going to be protesting a woman being put on the Supreme Court, you would be like, huh, that doesn't add up to me. But it's the wrong woman. So, which understandably for them, they're not happy about that. They're marching. There's all these children dressed up as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which is abuse. I'm trying to figure out what I should go for as Halloween. I'm going to Texas with some friends. We're going to, because everything sucks here in New York. It doesn't suck, but I don't know if stuff's going to be open. But so we're going to go get some of that sweet, sweet freedom down in Austin, Texas for Halloween. And I need to get a Halloween costume. Maybe Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That would be a funny costume. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's an easy one, too. I don't know how I would do that with a beard, but that's the thing, is like the beard really causes a problem for costumes, because I'm like, I guess you just have to have like have you should be like, yeah, you just ignore the beard. You suspend disbelief on the beard. You just go, yeah, the beard's there, but it's not part of the costume. Um, I think I wonder if you'd get in trouble for going as like you go, hey, I'm like a housewife, and then you put one of those like charcoal masks on, and then like would people ding you on blackface? Like, is that a subversive way to wear blackface on Halloween? And you go, no, blackface. No, it's just a charcoal mask. Why is everything about race with you? Because it is. Speaking of Austin, this is obviously not true, but I mean this part's true. But I have a funny conspiracy theory that I've heard nobody else say, and it probably nobody else will say because it's pretty fucking stupid. But so Jamie Vernon, the producer of Joe Rogan, got COVID. Joe Rogan is currently the podcast is on hiatus because Jamie tested for COVID positive. He's fine. Apparently, I watched some video from Joe Rogan, but he's like, he's sick. And he was sick, but he feels fine now. He's like 95% or something, 90% in his words. But just, out of abundance of caution, they're putting the podcast on hold, which is whatever. But so I was thinking, because like they were saying Kanye West, because Kanye West has been, I was talking about it last week, but he's been showing up on all these ballots and stuff, and he's being like, he had that I had it last week where he had like the political ad where he's like write in Kanye West for president of the United States, and then he was gonna go on Rogan. Like that was what I thought was like he was gonna go on Rogan to talk about maybe being the president, and that's like huge boost. Like, that's, the biggest show, literally, like, as big as it got. So he was going to go on Rogan, and then Jamie conveniently gets COVID, and look at that. He's not going on Rogan now. At a conspicuous time right before the election where this could really help Kanye, even though Kanye probably has a bigger audience than Rogan, but it would be more of like maybe some sort of crossover audience. I don't exactly know, but you got to think Kanye thinks there's some sort of like, he goes, oh, this is some deep state shit right here. This is the deep state. Basically, what happened is the deep state went down to Austin, and they like sent some operative in, like, they probably sent some dude in and be like, hey, I'm here to fix like the ducts or the air conditioner or something, and then they like go into the Joe Rogan studio, and then they just spray COVID everywhere just to make sure that and then obviously that never happened, but you could see that Kanye is like, coincidental that right when I am going to go do Joe Rogan, Jamie gets COVID. So get better, Jamie. He's not listening, but I'm sure, he'll be fine. That's another thing too. It's like we're totally in that. I've been reading a lot of data on this, and like we're really in the 8th or 9th inning of this whole thing. There's probably going to be a big because there's like another wave coming or whatever. But I think the next wave is going to be, from what I've been reading, not my opinion, in the middle of the country, just because they kind of avoided it a lot the first time. Because it's like basically the rural areas who think that they missed it. They're like, you're not immune, and you're going to get it now. But I think New York is going to be, all the bigger cities are going to be fine. Like, that's the thing is, like, I saw a graph the other day, or whatever, not a graph, a chart, of hospitalizations and deaths in New York City. And it's literally like a huge spike, and then it's just like creeping to basically zero. And it's like super low. Like, it's not that it's, completely under control, but that graph is like, many charts have deaths that aren't at zero. Like, that's the whole thing. The people where you're like, this has to be 0 deaths a day for this to be over, like for us to be like not locked down and not like, all these changes to life. You're like, that's not happening. Like, it's just really not happening. Like, we don't have that standard for anything else. So I don't know. We'll see. Speaking of conspiracies, because I was talking about, this is one of the dumbest conspiracies I've ever seen. So QAnon is, if you guys know, they're basically like this anti-child sex trafficking thing. Then mixed with like WWE storylines written by like a child who has a very vague understanding of politics. Maybe I'm not super sure, but so there was this QAnon conspiracy because I guess they have these like drops where they're like, hey, there's this new information coming. So then there was this new drop that JFK Jr., John F. Kennedy Jr., who was the son of President John F. Kennedy, who he died in 1999, I believe, in a plane crash. He died in a plane crash with his wife and sister, or his wife's sister, in 99. JFK Jr. On October 17th, to the day, that's another thing too, as they say, to the exact day, on October 17th, he's going to come back. He hasn't been dead. He basically QAnon saying that, like, this is really like wrestling. Like, you're like, this it feels like it's like wrestling. It's like the Undertaker's back or whatever. But so JFK Jr. is going to come back, and on October 17th, so he hasn't been dead this whole time. He basically has just been laying low for 21 years, just for this exact reason. And the reason is to become Donald Trump's vice presidential running mate. So he's going to come. This is the prophecy. It doesn't even make any sense. So why wouldn't he come up and like why wouldn't he run for president himself maybe? Like, wasn't JFK a Democrat? Like, why didn't he be like, all right, out of the way, Biden, it's JFK Jr. time? But because the QAnon people are all Trump people, they're like, no, this has to be something that's good for us, not bad for us. That would be bad for them. If JFK Jr. came out of the dead, he goes, I've had enough. That was actually when I was a kid, one of my favorite movies was this movie called Eddie and the Cruisers, which in hindsight is probably a piece of shit. But maybe it's not. But it's about this like musician who just like hates fame, and then he fakes his death. But he's like basically like Bruce Springsteen, and then he like fakes his death, and then he comes back because he's just like he misses it so much. And then it's like he's this musician or whatever. But yeah. So anyways, so he was supposed to come back on October 17th. Not rising from the dead, because he was never dead, is what they're saying, and then replace Mike Pence. Imagine how Mike Pence would feel. They're like, hey, Pence, sorry, pal, you're out. It was a good run. I appreciate everything you've done for being vice president and everything, but yeah, this fucking JFK Jr., we can't waste this. We can't waste this opportunity to have JFK Jr. He wants to be the vice president. He's been just living in who knows where, for probably just off the grid. Seems like he would be an off-the-grid kind of guy, huh? Living off the grid since 99, and now he's back. He's back, and he's running. And then that was another thing, too, is they're like he's going to replace Pence as Trump's running mate at a Dallas rally on Saturday, and, like, Trump didn't even have a rally in Dallas planned. Like, it's like you just look at it, and you're like, yeah, he's, like, in Wisconsin. Like, he doesn't even have a thing in Dallas. He's not going to be in Dallas. But they... They're not smart. They're not smart. This is the QAnon group. That was the group where I was in that group as a noted pedophile, which I feel like I let that slip away. I could have had a lot more fun with that. But I stopped. I let it slip away. It slipped out of my hands. But yeah, these QAnon people are fucking nutty because the thing is, there's people who legit believe that. I guarantee you there are people who are like, yeah, he's coming back. Saturday's gonna be crazy. Like they were probably like on like last week, they were like, man, Saturday is gonna be off the chain. We're going down to Dallas, and then they're like in Dallas, and they're like, hey, do you know where the Trump rally is? And people are like, yeah, there's no Trump rally. Don't know what you're talking about. And they go, huh. Must be part of the conspiracy. Must be further part of the conspiracy. I think I made it pretty far in this without talking about Donald Trump. It's hard not to, especially we have like 2 weeks leading up to the election. 2 weeks left until the election. It's looking like Biden's going to take it. And it looks like Biden's going to destroy him, but who knows? Who knows? Trump is like, it's funny too. Yeah, I heard an interview with him yesterday, and he goes, yeah, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I said, I'm done. I had no chance. He goes, but now I feel like I have a really good chance. You're like, what changed in the last 2 weeks? Other than like, I guess he got COVID. Was that 2 weeks ago that he got COVID? I guess it was 2 weeks ago, but I'm like, nothing's changed in the last 2 weeks. But for whatever reason, he he feels that he's got a good chance now. He's got a great chance. My favorite thing that he did in the past week is he retweeted the Babylon Bee. So if you don't know the Babylon Bee, it's like a Christian Onion, basically. They're like a conservative Christian Onion. They have some funny stuff sometimes. So Donald Trump tweets this. He goes, Twitter shut down entire network to slow spread of negative Biden news. And then it's the Babylon Bee. So, and then he goes, wow, this has never been done in history. This includes his really bad interview last night. Why is Twitter doing this? Bringing more attention to Sleepy Joe and Big T. So Big T being, I don't know who Big T is. Big technology, I guess. So he literally tweeted this as factual that Twitter shuts down their entire. So they just basically he tweeted on Twitter. Donald Trump is on Twitter tweeting that Twitter has shut down their entire network, not realizing. Shut down the entire network to slow the spread of negative Biden news while he's on Twitter. So he's tweeting and he's like, I can't believe Twitter's been shut down. And you're like, you're on Twitter right now. And then you know that at some point people are like, hey, Chief, that tweet from earlier today, and he's like, which one? You're like, the one like, yeah, I know you tweeted like 200 times today, but the one about the shutting the Babylon Bee and that's fake. That's a joke satire article. And he goes, well, I'm not going to delete it. Like he wouldn't even he's like, I'm not deleting it. He's like, that would be admitting some sort of error. So he's like, I'm not deleting it. I'm just going to leave it up. He's like, maybe I'm joking. Maybe I wasn't. He retweeted at 6:07 a.m. too. So he woke up first thing. He goes wakes up at 6:07 a.m. or probably wakes up at 5:30 or 4 or something. He's looking at it and he's like, half asleep. And he's like, what the hell? And then retweets this. So hilarious. And that's all obviously in reference to the Hunter Biden stuff, which apparently that's this could probably going to be in the news a lot for the next couple weeks leading up to the election is something about, I looked into it briefly. I mean, the main story about that was that the New York Post reported this, that there are these emails, which apparently are true. I haven't seen them really refuted in any way. So there's these emails, and then Twitter basically stopped. This is what this references, if you don't know. But then Twitter basically stopped stopped allowing people to retweet this article. Straight up, they're like, if you tried to tweet this article, they just wouldn't let you tweet this article to stop the spread of misinformation or whatever, even though there's no maybe they're saying there's some minor facts that are not true, but for the most part, this seems pretty true. And then you're like, Twitter, you guys allow all sorts of shit all the time like this. This is your whole platform is people fucking posting all this crazy ass shit. And then Twitter basically came, and Facebook did the same thing. And then Twitter came out the next day and go, oh no, we were wrong about that. We shouldn't have done that. Our reasoning was because it was hacked information. But you're like, you guys have been all the Steele dossiers. You guys have been allowing people to tweet hacked information all the time. It's it's just obvious what they were doing. It's so close to the election, and they were just obviously overly concerned, and they don't want their candidate to lose. But the funny thing is then there was this MIT study that came out that basically said because Twitter did that and Facebook did that, the reach of the article actually was double what it normally would have been, because essentially the Streisand effect, where named after President Barbra Streisand, the singer or whatever. Basically you tell people that they can't watch something, and then they're they want to watch it even more, and that's exactly what happened. It is interesting that they tried to shut it down, and then because of that, even more people know about it. And then even that, but on top of that, as of right now, and I'm almost certain of this, the New York Post, their Twitter page, so they have basically refused to take down, So basically they refused to take down the Post. They're we're not taking down the Post. And Twitter, they have 1.8 million followers. This is a big fucking, they're a big media company or whatever, the New York Post. They're owned by Rupert Murdoch, which I'm sure is part of it. But they refuse to take down that Post. And until they take down the Post, their Twitter account's locked. They're not allowed to post. So basically their last post is just about a shooting on October 14th. This is huge. This is the equivalent of the New York, I don't know, maybe not the New York Times. Probably is at this point, it's maybe not the New York Times, but something less than that. Whatever is one less than the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal or something. like probably the equivalent of the Wall Street Journal putting out a tweet that's like pretty factual. Like it's not like there's some, crazy tabloid shit. Like it is like for the most part, it's been pretty much proven to be true. And then they're not allowing it. So that's it's an interesting turn. We'll see how it develops. I'm sure they're going to sue the shit out of Twitter. This will drag on way past the election, this whole stuff. In the world of entertainment, I tweeted about this just because I read this and this made me laugh so fucking hard. And then I have to talk about this. So Demi Lovato, she's like the singer. I barely know who she is, but so she came out with a song, that criticizes Donald Trump. It's called Commander in Chief, and it's just she doesn't like Trump. And then, but the quote is she goes, I literally don't care if this ruins my career. I can't even say that without laughing. Like the idea that she thinks that, I mean, I don't know maybe her fan base is a lot of Republicans and maybe this will, but like just the idea that like, she's like, oh my God, she's like a fucking Hollywood singer. I can't imagine that she has a lot of Republican fans. Like she's not like country or anything, but the idea that she goes, I don't care. I don't care if criticizing Donald Trump literally ruins my career. I'm doing it. You're like, everybody does it. That is the safest position. There isn't a safer position to take than criticizing Donald Trump as like a Hollywood person or like entertainer. Like the idea, I can't tell if she's serious. Like I feel like she thought that she's like, yeah, like like did it ruin Eminem's career? No, like I don't know, nobody's career has been ruined. Like because you're on the easy side. It's like it's way harder to fucking come out on the opposite side of that. And if you don't think so, ask 50 Cent, because 50 Cent yesterday, he tweeted. So basically, they're talking about like they're gonna. So if Biden wins, all these states are gonna increase taxes, and so I think the highest tax rate, which is I think would be New York State for people who earn over $400,000 a year in New York, would go up to 62% a year, that's fucking crazy. That is, I mean, that's rich. That's high. You are literally, there will be people who are like, yeah, I'm not staying here for paying 62%. And I get it. They're like, they make over $400,000, but that's insane. That is fucking nuts. And I mean, it's a marginal tax rate, right? So it's not like it's 62% above. It's not 62% of $400,000, but still, that is that's insane. And so 50 Cent was like, who's basically been pretty vocal about hating Donald Trump, was like, yeah, he's like, fuck this, I'm voting for Donald Trump. And then he took some real backlash. Like that's the thing. You want to think like, oh, I literally don't care if this song that's negative about Donald Trump ruins my career. Yeah. Go talk to 50. And it's not going to ruin 50's career either, because a lot of people are like, yeah, even people who don't make $400,000 are like, yeah, that's pretty crazy. But, a lot of people on 50 Cent were like, fuck you. How could you do this to us? You rich fuck, blah, blah, blah. And he's just like, yeah, I don't know if you've followed my career, but my whole thing is just about like making money and, spending money. And I didn't have all these tax problems. So I'm sure he's like, yeah, I don't want to give the state of New York, who's, going to mismanage the shit of that money, 62%, little on the rich side, especially considering New York, at least city, is a shadow of its former self currently. So we'll see. Pray for Demi Lovato, pray for Fiddy. And last thing we're going to do before we get out of here. This was actually crazy. This was one of the crazier things I've seen in, and you know what? Like dictionaries, there's the Merriam-Webster dictionary. There's all these dictionary.com, and they've become like obviously politicized, or like partisan organizations, which is weird because it's a dictionary. You're like, aren't you guys just supposed to be the dictionary? But it makes sense to me because the type of people that would work at like if you were like, I'm gonna go work for a dictionary, that's all super liberal people. You're never gonna get like conservative people working at dictionaries. That's like, it just makes no sense. Like I picture like girls like feminist study, gender study kind of people, with like asymmetrical bowl cuts and purple hair and all that, just like the kind of tropey thing or whatever. So Amy Coney Barrett or whatever, she was doing her Senate, like asking her all these questions, and then this I think she's a senator from Hawaii. I can't remember her name. She's an Asian chick. I can't remember what her name is. Oh, here it is. Hiri Hono. She's a senator. So she starts asking her these questions for the Supreme Court nomination, and then she references that, I'm just going to play this.
This morning, Senator Feinstein asked you a question about the Supreme Court's 2015 decision in Obergefell v. Hodges, a case in which the court recognized the constitutional right to same-sex marriage. And I was disappointed that you wouldn't give a direct answer on whether you agreed with the majority in that case, or if you instead agree with your mentor, Justice Scalia, that no such right exists in the Constitution. So even though you didn't give a direct answer, I think your response did speak volumes. Not once, but twice. You used the term sexual preference to describe those in the LGBTQ community. And let me make clear, sexual preference is an offensive and outdated term. It is used by anti-LGBTQ activists to suggest that sexual orientation is a choice.
So she says you use the term sexual preference, and it's an outdated term and it's offensive, okay? The reason that she did that is because someone had tweeted at her earlier that day this fact, and she goes, I'm going to use this in the confirmation hearing, right? So she goes, it's an offensive term. And then basically people on Twitter were like, is it an offensive term? Lots of people thought that's just the terminology. And then in essentially an hour or two, Webster's dictionary, they go and they change the definition of preference. Literally, they go into it and they change, because in preference it says noun, and then it says definition of preference, the act of preferring, the state of being preferred, the power of opportunity of choosing, and then all these other ones. And then 5, it says orientation, sense to be sexual preference. That's what it was, in the morning of this. And then they changed it to, it says where it said sexual preference, it says offensive. See usage paragraph below. Orientation, sexual preference. So literally, Webster's dictionary watched this confirmation hearing. They obviously lean super hard to the left. Then they see that they're basically attacking her as being a bigot for using the term sexual preference. But then it doesn't align in their own dictionary, because their dictionary, which is they are the guide for this. You are the dictionary. So it's if you say that something is a sexual preference and that's offensive, then people go, well, what does the dictionary say? Because that's the reference point for all this. So then they just basically updated the reference point. They go, yeah, we're just going to change the dictionary. And they go and they actually just change the dictionary. So now that's where we're at, where the dictionary will just change stuff on a whim just in order to basically, help the political party of their choice. That seems crazy. That seems if you told me something like this could happen 5 years ago, I'd be like, no, it's the dictionary is the dictionary. But they'd been doing all this stuff with gender stuff, all the stuff that's going on with gender. They'd been doing where they'd be they'd be adding all these words that didn't. I mean, again, dictionary updates. It's not a fixed thing. I get that. It's you add new things, you take new things away, but if you could add meme or something something that's becomes everybody using it. But to be watching the news at the dictionary and then be yeah, I am offended by this, and then people start arguing and you go, yeah, we're gonna have to go change this just for this purpose. Crazy. All right. That has been the episode for this week. I appreciate everybody who's been listening. I got to take off. Going to the nation's capital tomorrow, Washington, D.C. Not for anything other than just to have some fun. Although I'm going to go check out that Comet ping pong place. Maybe go take a picture and have a slice of pizza. Wink, wink. No, I might actually just go get some pizza. Anyways, thanks everybody for listening. I appreciate you, all the new listeners. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please leave me a review it does help. All right. Until next week. Bye-bye.